Well, welcome everybody to our tech talk, Smart Logistics with Blockchain. My name is Josef Kamphues. I'm working at Fraunhofer IML in Germany, in Dortmund, and I'm happy to give you some insights about the blockchain technology itself, but also about some use cases where we can get blockchains, we can use blockchains for improving logistics, business models in logistics, and to improve the efficiency of processes. What I would like to show you today are the following topics that I will bring today. That is, after a short introduction, I will give you some insights about the blockchain technology, just to give you an understanding on how blockchain technology is working, and also what is different when we compare that with other technologies, and why it is has such a high potential to improve the logistics sector. Then we will get into some blockchain applications. I will provide some insights about use cases that we are working on. And after that, also a little introduction. How can we get started with blockchain solutions? How can we approach this new technology? How can we get it up and running? And in the end, we will have some time for questions and answers, of course. So let's start with a short introduction regarding myself. I'm Josef Kamphues. I'm working at Fraunhofer since 10 years now, and my fields of work are pretty much everything around supply chain management, with a focus on the application of digital technologies, such as artificial intelligence, also simulation and blockchain technologies. Currently working as a head of department for supply chain development and strategy, but 1 year ago, I was leading the project Blockchain Europe. That is a project that we are working on for several years now, for establishing a European Blockchain Institute in North Rhine-Westphalia. So in our region here, in order to get researchers and also practitioners together and to work on blockchain solutions in supply chain management and logistics. And why are we here today? We are presenting this tech talk from the project DIGILOGIC. And why do we have this project? We see the logistics industry as a key sector for driving digital innovations in order to get social and business development, and also to achieve Europe's and Africa's sustainable prosperity. So we see that logistics has a crucial role by getting these technologies up and running, and also has high potentials for these technologies. And we will want to foster the adoption of these technologies, such as cloud computing, big data, and blockchain, IoT, and other things, by providing a knowledge transfer, and also by providing implementation programs for companies. And therefore, we have 3 digital innovation hubs in Europe, in Germany, Finland, and Italy, and also 2 in Africa, where we can reach 9 countries in Africa. So this is the vision. This is why we are working in the project DIGILOGIC, and what we want to achieve. And what we can provide is, for example, a tech talk. So we have the information, the target to inform companies what new technologies are and how they can contribute to logistics. And we have this service that we have right now, the tech talk, for example. Then we have the green topics for strategy and road mapping, where we can provide company workshops together with companies, and to have a special look into the demands from the companies, and also coaching sessions for implementing new technologies to get them up and running for operations. So there are also company workshops that can go more into the implementation phase afterwards. So this is the idea, that why we have DIGILOGIC, and As I just mentioned, today we are having the first step into the technology blockchain with a tech talk, and I will provide you some insights. And after that, maybe one idea may arise, and where we can have a follow-up talk, what the benefits could be from such a technology like blockchain for your company. So then let's have a start into, have a look into the blockchain technology. First of all, just to give you an understanding why I think it's so important that we have a look into the technology itself, because there are some rumors regarding blockchain. There are some things that you can read in the media, why the technology itself is somehow not or is somehow very much focused on the topic Bitcoin, for example, and not so much seen as a new technology that can help also in the B2B market to provide more efficient processes, for example, or to provide a better cooperation between companies, for example. And I brought some news from the land of legends, I called it. So what you can see here, that we have fake blockchain is just a hype, for example. That is something that we hear pretty much, or there are no real world applications for blockchain. Blockchain is an energy guzzler, or blockchain is Bitcoin. And because of these rumors that you can see, or the fake news that you can see here, I want to show you that there are other sides of the blockchain. There are other things that we can use blockchain for. And before we come into the use cases, I will show you the technology, and then you can also see why we are sure that this technology can help to improve logistics processes in the future. So blockchain is short definition. When we have a generic view on the blockchain, we could say blockchain is a technology that allows people who don't know each other to trust a shared record of events. So this is a very generic view on the topic blockchain, of course, but there are some words in it that already show us what it's all about. So it's about, of course, it's technology, and it's about trust, and it's about a record of events. So it's something about data memory. It's a data space, you could say, but it's not a normal one. It's a one where you can get different people together to work on one data space, and you can trust the data. So when we have a more technological view or definition, you could say a blockchain is decentralized, distributed, tamper-proof, cooperatively used data memory, and it enables secure data exchange between nodes of a peer-to-peer network. So we have some attributes mentioned here. So the first one is distributed. So we have no centralized third party that is needed that holds the data, but the operations, they take place between the different network members. Then we have the attribute transparency. So all network members have a copy of the blocks in the blockchain. That's why the name blockchain came up. Then we have the attribute unchangeable. When we attach blocks, or so we add new information to this database, they are no longer changeable. We have the attribute security. Attackers would have to corrupt the blocks on all network members. So we don't have because we have the copy of the information throughout our network, we would have to change all information at all nodes in the whole network. So this makes it pretty secure. And we have the topic or the attribute traceable. So the transactions that we have in our blockchain, they are shown chronologically, and so we can have a look into the history of events or history of information. So these are the attributes that we have. So it's a data space where we have these in the attributes. And why do we care? Why do we think blockchain is a interesting topic for supply chain management and logistics? What you can see here is that we have challenges in supply chain management and logistics. Some examples, like for example, we have different parties involved in our processes, maybe with a lack of confidence. We have duties for documentation. We have the necessity to guarantee to have a proof of the origin. So where do the products come from, for example? We have several manual-based processes and so on. So these are some challenges that we have in supply chain management and logistics. And on the other side, we have the potentials that our blockchain technology can provide. So we have, for example, the administrable data exchange. Access for a secure data exchange. We have transparency across the supply chain. We can think about traceability for the events, process automation, because we have the topic about smart contracts. We will come to that topic afterwards in a few minutes. We have the possibility of verification before we provide information or we want to share information. And we have the attribute that we have interoperability of the blockchain. So we can integrate blockchain technology also with current IT landscapes or systems that we have. So it can be an add-on to the current systems that we have up and running. So now I've showed you an overview about the technology, the definition, what are the key elements of blockchain technology. And I want to approach the blockchain topic with you with these things that I show you. So the first one is that we have a look into what is a peer-to-peer network. Then we come to what is a distributed ledger. Then what is a block? What is a hash, and what types of blockchain are there? And last but not least, what is a smart contract? So these are the topics that I want to show you in some minutes, that you get a deeper understanding of what blockchain is and how it works. So first of all, when you think about client-server architecture that we have a server that provides information or services. And we have a client that is requesting data or services from the server. So the client can be temporary part of the network, and the server needs to be available in the network. So what we know from our daily business is that we have a server like database servers a lot in our companies that provides data or it executes tasks. And we have clients like workstations or even tablets or whatever you can think of that is requesting the data. So this is pretty much the normal or the IT infrastructure that we know for several years, that we are working with every day when we have a network up and running. And what we can see is in this normal infrastructure, you could say that when we have a look at the roles, the definition of what a client and what a server is not based on the machine, but on the function that we have. So the function defines the role. We could say a node is a connected hardware entity in a server. And if we have a contributing node, then we are speaking about a server. And if we have a consuming node, we are speaking about a client. And what we have in a peer-to-peer network are several nodes. And these nodes, they own information and they provide and consume information. So it's not the typical client-server architecture, but we have a node that is providing and consuming information. So it's both, it's a client and a server, and it can also be temporary part of the network. So it does not have to be always available. So, and a peer-to-peer network is the network of equal nodes that communicate in a peer-to-peer manner. And the very typical example is the file sharing one. So where we probably can upload or download a file throughout the network. So this is a peer-to-peer network. And now what we have is a peer-to-peer network. And when we are addressing blockchain technology, we add, you could say, a ledger of transaction. And what we get is a distributed ledger technology. So we have a peer-to-peer network, we have a distributed list of transactions, and we have identical copies of the ledger on each device that is part of this network. We have no central maintaining authority, no central server, but the information are provided throughout the network. And we have a consensus mechanism that is verifying that the information that are shared throughout the network, they are updated and they have the right status. And now we can have a look at the blockchain data structure. So why it's called blockchain? Blockchain is one kind of a distributed ledger technology. And when we have a look at the block, what is a block? That is a data structure, you could say, with a list of blocks, and each block consists of a hash of its predecessor, then the set of transactions or information that you want to store, and again a hash, and a hash integrating the hash of the predecessor and own information, so that you can see also on the picture on the left. So we have always a previous hash, then we have several transactions, and again the new hash is a hash over the information of the previous hash and the transactions. And you can see these blocks are put after one after another. And that is what the topic about the security of the data. So if you would want to change the data in the blockchain, you would have to change the information throughout all blocks in the blockchain. So through all the whole history of the blockchain. And this is why it is so difficult to change data in a blockchain data structure. So maybe you will ask, what is a hash? And the hash, you could say, is a checksum, a cryptographic checksum that is intended to ensure the integrity. So it's something like you could say fingerprint. So you have one information, and the example that I brought here is that we have blockchain, the word blockchain. And the word blockchain, if you have a cryptographic a checksum over the word blockchain, you receive a 64 characters long value that you can see here. And if you have another information like blockchain technology in supply chain management, and again use the same cryptographic algorithm, you receive again 64 characters, but it's, as you can see, another information that you have. So you can really think about or see this as some kind of a fingerprint of this information. And this fingerprint, as we just saw, is always added to a block. And then we have not only the information, but we also have the checksum for the information in one block. So, and if we now think about the blockchain network, that combines the principles of the blockchain data storage or the data structure that I just showed you in the peer-to-peer architecture. So we have equal nodes, they hold the same data. We have integrated synchronization between the nodes, and in a blockchain, we call the nodes that store the whole copy, the full copy of the blockchain, we call them full nodes. So the full nodes provide the full copy of the blockchain, and the data is stored as a chain of blocks, and each block holds a set of transactions. So this is a really quick deep into the technology, why it is called blockchain, what is behind the blockchain technology, and what are the attributes. And what now is really important to understand is that we don't have one blockchain. There is not the one blockchain. There are several blockchains, blockchain framework we call it, that can be used for implementing different use cases. And the Bitcoin, for example, is one blockchain, a very prominent one. But we have several other ones that use different technologies, different algorithms and mechanisms to share these data in a blockchain data structure throughout a peer-to-peer network. And that we can see here. So we differentiate between permissionless blockchains, or also the public blockchains, we call it. So these are the examples that you cannot see in the media, for example, Bitcoin and Ethereum. So this is an open network where each participant has the same rights. And we have a full data transparency for all participants involved in the systems. It's fully decentralized system, and therefore it's often used for trading and exchanging cryptocurrency. And on the right side, we see the permission blockchain, and these ones are normally the ones, or often the ones, that we can see in a B2B use case. So we have permissions that can be assigned individually to the stakeholders of a blockchain network. So that brings some benefits why it is often used in corporate networks. And in the permission blockchain, again, we can differentiate between consortial blockchain and private blockchain, which again have different aspects, or address different aspects regarding the privacy of data, for example. And you can see some examples at the top of the right box. So we have Tendermint, for example, Corda, Multichain, Hyperledger. Hyperledger Fabric is a prominent example. So there are different frameworks that are on the market. Most of them are open source, available, and they can be used for implementing the different use cases. Another aspect that we have is that pretty many of these different blockchain frameworks, they can use or can provide smart contracts. The smart contract, this is also something that is mentioned pretty often when you read or hear something about blockchain, and it is often also not understood really in the whole context. When you see here the definition that we see here, you could say a smart contract is a computerized transaction protocol that executes the terms of a contract. But the contract that we mean here is not a contract in the legal sense. It can be a contract in a legal sense, but it does not have to be a contract in the legal sense. But it's more like a if-then condition. So it can also be just, for example, we have an event like a truck arrives at the plant, and this event again triggers another action, like send a notice via email to whatever. So this could be a really easy easy smart contract. So it is more like a trigger for another action that comes after an event occurs. So why is it so prominent, or why is it discussed so a lot regarding the blockchain technology? The thing is, what you can see here, the definition of a smart contract is older than the blockchain itself. But by the blockchain becoming more relevant, and we have more blockchain applications, we can use the smart contract very much better, because we have the database that is that you cannot manipulate so easily, and you have a trustworthy database, because you always know who the data that is stored in the blockchain is true. So you have one truth, one database that you provide. And when you have one database where every actor that uses this data ensures or is sure that the information is correct, you can use the smart contract very easily. You don't have to make sure that the information is true. So by the rise of the blockchain technology, smart contracts became pretty popular, and they are used in several use cases, especially or also in the logistics sector, the way you can have a look into some use cases in some minutes. So a short summary. What are the advantages of blockchain technology? We have data democracy via distributed data management. We have integrated system stability achieved through redundant databases because we have a copy of the information throughout the network. We have reliable databases through consensus mechanisms. So it's some kind of a single source of truth. And we have therefore the basis for automated processes. However, of course, we have barriers of the blockchain technology. One is that the data is not non-erasable, so it's not possible to erase information that you don't want to have on the blockchain anymore. So when we think about information or the aspect of privacy, for example, or private information, that makes it somehow difficult to implement. We have limited write speed, especially when we confer that with conventional databases, and always we have a trade-off between transparency and privacy. So if we want to share the data, of course, that helps us, that provides transparent information throughout the network, throughout our logistics network, for example. But of course, when I share the information, I also have to keep in mind that some information shouldn't be shared, maybe, and this leads us always to a trade-off that we have to define when we build up a blockchain governance for our network. So this was a short summary on blockchain technology, and once you have this in mind, we can have a look into some blockchain applications in logistics and supply chain management. So one use case I brought with me is from transportation logistics. So what you can see here is that we have a supply chain where we have different papers that have to be shared and also stored. And with the data structure that we have the blockchain as an enabler for efficient handling of the documents. So we have a document management system, you could say, and you can always be sure that the papers that you have in the digital manner in the blockchain, they have authenticity. So if someone would have changed the documents between two actors in the supply chain, you could have a check on that. So you could have a look at the document, you could build a checksum about the document, so you can build the hash about the document that you see, and you can compare the hash, for example, with the original hash in the blockchain, and by that, you know if the document that you are seeing right now, if this is the right one. This is, for example, also one use case that we were addressing in the Blockchain Europe project that I mentioned. Maybe you're aware of the eCMR, so the possibility for the digital transportation documents. And also there we are using the blockchain technology for providing a reliable database and for providing authenticity CMRs throughout the supply chain. So this was the transportation sector. You can also think about the production systems when we have a look at the cyber-physical production systems. This is a research project that we have running. So the idea here is that we bring together the blockchain with artificial intelligence and the Internet of Things. So we have the blockchain as a data storage for the negotiation and also the payment. This is, of course, always interesting when you think about concepts like shared warehouses, for example, or shared production, where you have the machineries that are used for different actors. They always have a reliant database that can tell you how often machinery was used, for example, which orders were placed at what machinery under which conditions. And this again brings you a good basis for the payment processes. And the second phase would be that we have blockchain as an intermediary for the self-control within the cyber-physical production system, so that also the machineries that interact between each other, that they have a database, a blockchain-based database, where they can, for example, negotiate between the different orders that are placed into the whole production system. And they have the database for deciding which order comes to which machine, for example, or which order goes into which storage, for example. So this would be the second step, that we use also the blockchain as a trustworthy environment for deciding, for making these autonomous decisions in a cyber-physical production system. We have a third use case. This is the smart waste management. This is a pretty interesting use case where we also connect IoT devices with the blockchain. So what we have here, there are some containers for waste disposal, and with an IoT device, we can track the filling level of the containers. And once the container achieve a defined filling level, we have a smart contract up and running that is ordering a truck for the waste disposal. And once the container is emptied, we also use another smart contract for the payment process. So for paying the waste disposal company, in this case it's Rhenus, for the service. And we have integrated the Commerzbank in this scenario, and Rhenus and the Telekom, as you can see on the left side. So these three partners provide the different technologies and the use cases. And by that, we have these automated billing and payment processes implemented for the waste disposal process. So this is a pretty interesting use cases where you can see how we can integrate IoT, blockchain, and the smart contract topic. And then when we have a look at the more, you could say, administrative processes, for example, let's have a look at the customs process, because the customs process, of course, is interesting because we have several actors in the customs processes, and these actors they have the necessity to provide documents or information, not only between the companies, but also between between the company and the controlling instances, you could say. So the logistical problem that we have is that the customs declaration, it's already digitized, but we still have many documents that are involved in the process because due to the necessity to have the signatures and on the paper. And we have no shared truth on the process, so it's some kind of a black box process, you could say. And so we have not the same information for the customs processes as for the supply chain actors. And the idea now is that we are addressing in our Blockchain Europe project that we have blockchain and smart contracts for improving the integration of the customs clearance processes and the logistics processes. So we get a more synchronization between the processes. And we are starting with a so-called Ausfuhrbegleitdokument or export accompanying document that we want to share through the blockchain. And therefore, we built some basic components that help us to store the information and to share the information through the different actors. And another use case, we have, for example, the dangerous goods handling. Again, you can say here that it's a very paper-based process. It's legally regulated pretty much. And so we have the necessity to digitalize a process where again, we have normally lots of paperwork and lots of actors that have interest in different kind of data throughout the process. And so the idea is here that we build some kind of a blockchain user portal, you could say. So that's, you could say that's like a web front end where you can provide information in the first step for the transport related dangerous goods handling. And this user portal provides or is connected through with a blockchain. And the different actors in the blockchain, they can have a look on the data, on the different records on the data, and they can use this information also for short notice changes in the process. When you think about paper-based processes, you always have the topic that it's a pre-planned process. So in the evening before the process starts, for catching up some IBC containers, for example, you have to decide in the evening before what is to be picked up. If you have a digital process supported by blockchain, for example, you can decide on short notice if you want to change the plan that has been defined. So this gives us some opportunities to bring more flexibility into the processes by providing the digital information throughout the blockchain network, and also by providing a reliable data source or data infrastructure. So these are all the some use cases that I brought, and one topic that we addressed in at the Fraunhofer IML was that we thought about how can we bring blockchain onto the shop floor, into the processes. So we built the blockchain device that you can see here on the left side, and it's a device that is really part of a blockchain. Some minutes ago, I told you about the full nodes of a blockchain. So these are really big machines that hold a full copy of a blockchain. And this small device that you can see here, it's some kind, we call it the light node, because it does not hold the whole copy of information of the blockchain, but it can provide information to the blockchain. And we had a use case from the pharmacy or food sector where we have the temperature sensitive goods that we want to transport from one point to another. And this device that we can see here can transmit the devices, like, for example, temperature, the geocodes, and so on, into the blockchain. And then we have a verification who was responsible at this time for the process if anything goes wrong. For example, if we have the temperature that is not allowed, this information is stored in the blockchain, and we can have a really track and trace about the status of the goods that we are transporting here in with this blockchain device. And of course, we also want to interact with this device. So we have an e-ink display that provides the essential information from a logistical perspective. And also we have a web front end that helps us to have a look regarding the transportation information, the temperature, and so on from an offsite location. So this was a first attempt to bring blockchain or make blockchain devices more tangible, you could say. And the next step was then that we divided this device, you could say, into two devices. So the first aspect is that we brought this aspect of bring your own device into this whole idea. So for dangerous goods transportation, for example, we have a typical smart device like a tablet where we can interact. The user can interact with a blockchain with a typical device. But again, this device becomes a real part of the blockchain by providing light client functionalities. And on the other hand, for the same use case, we provide an IoT device, and this IoT device that is also connected with the Dragon device, so the Dragon Puck and the Dragon device, we called it. They can act with each other, and they both provide information to the blockchain, like, for example, the temperature. And by this, we get a good interaction with the blockchain, but also we can use the individual functions or things that we need in the processes by implementing specific IoT devices to the logistical process. And I can show you a little video for that you can a little bit see how the interaction takes place. So we have a tablet here that scans the PUC. So there we have the web front end where we can see the events in the blockchain, where we can interact with the blockchain. We can also show the information about temperature, for example, that the IoT device is collecting. And the IoT device, you see it here on the IBC container that's connected on the good, and then you have the information from the people in the process and also the information from the goods transportation process also in the blockchain. And you can connect this information. So these are some insights or some examples for blockchain applications in logistics and supply chain management. How can blockchain help to improve the processes? And what I want to show you just in some minutes here is that blockchain should never be an end in itself. So we do not use blockchain because we think blockchain is a nice idea or is a big innovation by itself. But what you can see here that may help you or help different companies to decide if you really need blockchain and for what purposes. And this is some kind of a decision tree that you can use. So I don't want to go into every detail with it, but we can start, for example, with the first topic. The first question is, do we really need a shared common database in our logistics processes? And if we say, no, we don't need that for this use case, you don't need a blockchain. But if we say, yes, we could use a common database, then the next question is, are multiple parties involved? Again, if there's a no, you probably don't need blockchain. But if yes, then the next question would be, are the involved parties, are they in conflict? Do we have different interests or something like that? And as you can see now, you can go from one topic to another, and that may help you to decide if blockchain is a topic for you, if blockchain is a topic for the use case that you are thinking about. And also, if you have a look at, for example, the figures 8, 9, and 10, these are more technological ones. So what kind of a blockchain do I really need? As I just mentioned, there are several blockchain frameworks on the market, and you can that maybe help you to find the right approach or the right category of a blockchain, for example. So this is a just short introduction or a just sneak peek into the how we can approach such topics. There are also other possibilities like a quick check, so that where you can use some questions that help you to also have a look into the real application that you are thinking about. Is it an application or a use case where blockchain may help? This is a web tool that you could use. For example, there are several ones. I just picked the one from the Blockchain Europe project, for example, but there are also other ones that you may find in the internet that helps you to get an orientation. And then if you have decided, yes, blockchain is an interesting topic, then it's always the question, how do we approach this topic? And of course, since this is a new technology, and since this is a technology that uses or needs different actors throughout the logistics network, it's some kind of experimental thing or some kind of a proof of concept, for example, where you would start with. So the first thing is gather your ideas and find the promising use cases, maybe with the help of the tools and methods I just showed you. And then the second important step is find innovation partners and learn. So it does not make sense to build up a blockchain for yourself, all by yourself, alone, but it makes sense to address other partners in your supply chain, think or speak with them, and think about a scenario where different actors get the best out of the blockchain. And then you have some kind of a coalition of the willing that want to learn what blockchain is and how we could use blockchain technology for our logistics processes. And once you have arrived this step, then you can expand your solution if it really gets up and running and you see that there are benefits. You can, of course, expand your solution by addressing more use cases or by integrating more partners from your logistics network, for example. And this information you see on the source at the bottom of the slide. Of course, you can have a look at in different studies, also concept frameworks that may help to give you an introduction step by step how we can approach the different blockchain scenarios. So this was a quick introduction to how we can start with blockchain. Now you have learned what blockchain technology is, what blockchain applications there are, and now we come to the point, the last 10 minutes, that we can, of course, have a look if there are some questions, if there are comments, any learnings from you. Do you have experience with blockchain technologies? Do you have any feedback? So I would like to welcome you to just contribute some ideas or even questions if you like.
Kagiso, you have a question.
Hi, I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes.
Oh, okay, thanks. So I missed the majority of the session. However, my initial, I suppose, attraction to this webinar was the use of blockchain, in supply chain, but more from a point of I don't know if you know of IBM solution around blockchain and EDI technology. And for me, I have a very strong focus, and in fact, I have a concept which I'd like to, build further, focusing on like EDI technology, but more on a, I suppose, a hybrid sort of use case. But for me, with what you guys are doing, I just want to know, do you guys have a focus on EDI? And if so, how are you going to bring it to now people on the ground? And what I mean by people on the ground is now, so the region I'm from South Africa. So courier companies, right, tend to outsource, certain functions to I suppose I could say to entrepreneurs. So who are willing to now do deliveries on behalf of the courier company, because obviously it saves them time and it saves them money. So for me, I just want to find out if you guys are working on a solution that can kind of help such people on the ground, similar to like your Uber type of Uber model type of delivery people, So I don't know if that question makes sense.
I can try to give an answer. So what I heard from you is the first one, if we have special experiences in several approaches, for example, the IBM or other aspects or scenarios, I think we can provide this information and go into it challenging if you like, if I got your question right, in another company workshop or whatever, where we have a special focus on your ideas or your questions regarding that, and we will bring our experts regarding these technologies. I think we can have a look if we can provide this. So this was the first question that I heard, and the second question was how we can get blockchain to the people on the ground. And our philosophy is that we some kind make of, so we are working open source. So all developments that we make, they are open source, and they build, or the solutions that we build, the services that we build, they have some kind of basic functions that everyone would need in logistics and supply chain management. For example, document handling. We have servers that is named a digital folder. It's some kind of a token manager where you can store different kind of documents or information or even token, and you can share the token between different actors in the supply chain. And it's not really specialized for one use case. It's more like a basic function that you can use and that you can adapt and concretize or specialize for your application. And this basic function that you can use, that you can download from an open source and you can use it for your company. So this is the approach that we are using right now. I hope this answers your second part of the questions.
Okay. Yes.
Now we can hear you
correctly. And response. You know that. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I think so. Try again.
Okay. Okay. How about now?
Now it's good.
Okay, great. As I was saying, just to add on to your second response, you know, typically how blockchain and I suppose cryptocurrencies kind of work hand in hand together. Would one say that is there a need for a token to be created for businesses to transact, even though we know how blockchain technology is such that ultimately it puts transactions on a public ledger for everyone to see, you know? So yeah, I just want to find out from you, do you think that businesses would have to have their own token or currency, if I can call it that, in order to transact, be it business documents or anything else, you know, relating to data, or would it just be a simple document transmission, but it being recorded on the blockchain, saying that Gachiso sent something to Joseph, and it's publicly recorded?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, as often the answer should be it depends. I think if you have a use case where it really is the topic or the target is to get people onto a blockchain, and you have simple information that you want to share, and this is not, you could say, critical information, like the information that you can share throughout the network. Of course, you can use public networks because they are pretty more easy to implement and to get up and running because they are running. So you just have to become a member. But there are several use cases that we are confronted with where the real benefit comes out of the blockchain if you connect one information with another information. So I think in these cases, you, for example, if you have the temperature and the payment processes from the example that we had with the blockchain device, you are touching fields where you probably need own solutions for the business network, just because you want to prevent that everyone from the world can have a look into these information, or that can also be part of the blockchain. So there are several use cases where you want to reach a whole mass, but not everybody. So there are, of course, then the necessities to build up own networks and also to have own tokens or currencies or whatever.
Yes. Yes. Thank you for that. I understand. I understand.
Okay, you're welcome. Markus.
Yeah, I would like to add on that. Thanks for the questions. And as Josef said, it really depends on the case. So there's a lot what is possible with blockchain technology, but it's not one blockchain technology. So there are different flavors, and you have to find out what are your needs and how to combine the different technologies to find an application case. And answering this really requires to go more into detail of the specific application case. And for that, we have a format within the DIGILOGIC project that's funded by the project, where company-specific application cases can be discussed in a Zoom meeting for 2 hours. And now Kagiso seems to be gone. We should get in contact and talk about that.
Okay. Thanks, Markus. Do we have any other things? Any other questions? If not, we have reached the end of our tech talk, I think. Thanks a lot for listening to our tech talk. I hope it got some insights, some ideas, and that maybe we see us again on the DIGILOGIC Africa community, and then we can have a deeper look into the different applications from your perspective and get more into the discussion if you like. So thank you very much and have a nice day. Bye-bye.